Spain is heading towards a constitutional crisis. Over the last 5 years, the government has managed to go scot-free in spite of their incompetence to unite the nation. But this time, the people of Spain are getting agitated. The streets of Madrid are lined with thousands of protesters, and they want answers. Where did it all start, and how did things get here? Let's dive in. Crisis in Catalonia. The story began 6 years ago. A passionate quest for independence took Catalonia in a craze. This was the Catalan separatist movement. Carles Puigdemont was at the helm of the regional government. He orchestrated an unauthorized independence referendum on October 1st, 2018. This infuriated the Spanish government and the Constitutional Court. Both of them called it immoral, unconstitutional, and illegal. This gave way to waves of political and social unrest all across the country. The referendum divided the people of Spain. Catalans who wanted independence voted en masse, but opponents who believed in the Constitution's rule of not breaking up the country chose not to. However, the opposition was not very successful. The result showed most people wanted independence. Some saw this as a victory. Others called it luck because many people did not vote as part of the boycott. After Catalonia said it wanted to be independent, the situation got messy. The leader, Puigdemont, declared independence, but Rajoy's government evoked Article 155 of the Spanish Constitution. They did this to nullify separatism. This stopped Catalonia's independence and removed its government. Even weeks after, tensions continued to rise. Spanish authorities arrested several Catalan leaders, including Puigdemont. The charges against them were rebellion and misusing public funds. To avoid arrest, Puigdemont even tried fleeing to Belgium. But these arrests, along with the central government's involvement, caused protests in Catalonia. People all over the region took to the streets to protest this move. They saw it as a sort of betrayal from their own people. Over time, the separatist sentiment grew. Protesters wanted independence, and they wanted their detained leaders freed. And, despite emergency help, the protest only continued to grow in intensity. The struggles between the Spanish government and Catalonia became an urgent concern. The desire for Catalan independence clashed with Madrid's commitment to national unity. This laid the groundwork for what came a few years later. In December 2022, the issue blew up into a full constitutional crisis. Spain faced a problem with the judiciary and the choice of judges. The government wanted to fix it with a new law and a swift go. Yet many Spaniards didn't like the law. They thought the government was rushing and doing it for political reasons. They worried the government might try to control the courts, which is not fair. This situation made people in Europe concerned too. The European Commission, which watches over countries in Europe, got concerned as well. They thought Spain was not following democratic rules and going against European values. This made Spain's politics even more tense. People continued growing apart in the aftermath. Fast forward to October 2023. Far from being a closed chapter, the Catalonia issue remained a live wire. It kept influencing the country's political climate. Fears of potential civil unrest were everywhere across the country. Finally, questions started arising about the leadership, especially the leadership's capacity to address the root cause of discontent. This challenge extended beyond Catalonia. The crisis also shed light on some other ailments of the Spanish state. Most important of these were regional inequality, economic disparity, and rising social injustice. These concerns have had real consequences. Take this for example. In the general election in July 2023, Spain found itself stuck in a political stalemate. This was because no party could win enough support to run the country. Even after talking for months, the politicians couldn't find any common ground. With all this, the electoral body suffered. The way people vote only making things more annoying. People watching all this unfold got skeptical and started losing faith in the government. There were already big problems that were weighing on the nation: the climate emergency, child poverty, and inconsistent development. To make things worse, the changes the nation hoped for during elections seemed far away. This left them feeling disappointed, while the Spanish leaders struggled to install a government that could fix things. The Catalan Amnesty deal. And then came the big shock. Spain's political scene saw a big change. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez proposed a controversial amnesty deal. The move aimed to grant amnesty to Catalan separatists, causing more protests nationwide. Sanchez said it was necessary to ease tensions, especially since it had been 6 years since Catalonia's failed bid for independence. This divisive amnesty proposal came in the aftermath of a confusing general election. Sanchez needed support from Catalan separatists to get a confidence vote in parliament. Parties like ERC and JXCat were important actors. In return, these parties demanded amnesty for the individuals facing legal action for their part in the movement. The proposed amnesty law covered events from 2012 to the present. This included the 2017 referendum. Supporters argued it could benefit around 400 people. Notable among these were minor officials and citizens involved in the 2017 referendum. It also included police officers facing legal action for their role. This is problematic because police officers are state officials. Their duty, first and foremost, is to be loyal. And if the nation cannot rely on its law enforcement, who can they rely on? The controversial amnesty deal sparked a public backlash, and there were a slew of critics in the government as well. The Conservative Popular Party accused Sanchez of violating the rule of law. So was Vox. Accusations of giving in to political pressure also flew. The opposition planned legal challenges against the amnesty. They framed it as a compromise undermining the integrity of Spain's legal system. It was not only politicians. Other high-ranking officials like the Supreme Judge did not like the amnesty deal. He said it could mess up how power functions in the realm of law. He also added that it could even risk the safety of the state. While people protested, some were also worried that trust in the government might go down. And if that happened, it could make it easier for leaders who didn't listen to what people wanted to take charge. It was no longer only about the laws, but also about how much people trust their leaders. Sanchez's socialists and some smaller parties supported the amnesty. But in return, a vast majority of people in Spain and across Europe criticized it. Even the opposition wasn't confined to a specific political side. Both left and right-leaning parties worried about the effect of the deal on the country. On the surface, what Sanchez did makes perfect sense. Sanchez pitched the amnesty as a way to move past Catalonia's independence bid, but critics saw it as a move to hold on to power. The country's internal divides became more visible, with the Conservative Popular Party and the far-right Vox opposing the government. This set the stage for a prolonged struggle, not only in politics but also in the legal arena. It was here that the great legal challenges appeared on the horizon. Sanchez returns. In a big moment for Spain, on November 17, 2023, Pedro Sanchez got re-elected as prime minister. He had the support of 179 out of 350 lawmakers after 2 days of talking. But this win came with a big controversy. Sanchez used a debated amnesty deal to get support from Catalan separatists. Smaller parties, including 2 Catalan separatist ones, were key in the re-election. As a result, they entered into a coalition, also involving the left-wing Sumar party. This coalition showed the complicated Spanish politics. The agreements with the Catalan and Basque parties definitely helped Sanchez, but they have come with conditions. First, these separatists want important laws ratified, especially for Catalonia's future independence. And with a part of the coalition, this makes things tricky for the government's stability. The Catalans have also put forth another demand about authorized referendums for independence. This is another tough subject in Spain. These support terms also show the delicate balance Sanchez must keep until 2027. The criticized amnesty proposal under EU scrutiny adds more uncertainty. Possible legal challenges and ongoing protests make things complicated in politics. Looking forward, the protests outside the Socialist Party's headquarters show that the nation is uneasy. Considering how long the Catalan crisis has been an issue, it is also justified. Spaniards accuse Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez of putting politics before the nation, and with the support of EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, things are far more serious. What's more, experts believe that Sanchez's government isn't going to be stable the second time. Sure, overcoming the first challenge did well for him, but the conditions from supporting parties, especially Catalonia, make things shaky. However, not all is in vain. Some analysts think the government's stability could last, but the government needs to work in a prompt manner. In the midst of Spain's own problems, global leaders have congratulated Sanchez. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen even added a nod to show her support. She hopes to work with Sanchez toward the sustainable development of Europe. As Spain handles EU funds for recovery, the focus on green energy is important. The government's promise to follow EU priorities on climate change will be a big part of its future plans, and will also determine where on the EU spectrum Sanchez leaves the office. Looking ahead, keeping the government stable is a big worry, but with some hope. Managing the nationwide protests needs a careful plan from Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. It needs to be honest. It needs to be strategic, and it should include damage control mechanisms, a lot of them. If that wasn't enough, the EU checking Spain's democratic principles makes things even more complicated in politics. As the country moves through this complicated political path, the stakes are high, not only for Spain itself, but also for its place in Europe. The next year will test Sanchez's government. There are already predictions of economic instability as the nation reels back. Then there is the global wave of inflation that has started hitting Spain. Handling challenges like climate change and recovery will be very important. Will Sanchez's government be able to sustain itself? Is he even capable of reuniting the country's divided terrain? These are simple questions with difficult answers.